What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic, Jamel Herring versus Oscar Valdez is the fight to make. Valdez is the big fish. Shakur Stevenson can wait. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life before riches, huh? That life before riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing. All right, so we just saw the fight, a spectacular performance by Jamel Herring in the fight against Carl Frampton, the Jackal. It was a great fight, great performance by Herring. Carl Frampton, the Jackal, put up a valiant effort, but Herring was just too big, too fast, too strong for him, and he was defeated by Herring in that fight. So consequently, the Jackal, Carl Frampton, has retired since that fight. And, he's been in the boxing for a while, did a lot of great things in boxing, was a great champion in his day, had some great wins on his record, and he went out like a champion, okay? Went out fighting. And you can't, you cannot respect that. So big respect to Carl Frampton, great champion. Good luck, in his next endeavor, whatever that might be, if it's in boxing or outside of boxing, whatever. But good luck to the champ. And long live the champ, Carl Frampton. Now we have a new champion, Jamel Herring. Great fight, great performance. Now the question is, what's next for Jamel Herring? There's a lot of talk out there about the fight with Oscar Valdez. There's also, some noise out there from Shakur Stevenson, getting impatient, wanting to, get the fight with Jamel Herring next. And, I can understand where Shakur is coming from. He's a young lion, and he wants to roar, okay? And he wants to go out there and do his thing. And, yeah, that's all good. Nothing wrong with that. I respect that. Respect that he wants to, fight Jamel Herring next. But at the end of the day, we have to be realistic. And to me, the fight to be made right now with Jamel Herring, I believe, is with Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez is the bigger fish than Shakur Stevenson. And I think, if I was advising Jamel's camp, Jamel himself, that's the fight that I would take next, would be Oscar Valdez. That's the bigger fish. That's just, it goes without saying. It's a great fight legacy-wise, as well as a great fight from a business standpoint. Okay, so that would be the fight that I'd be going after. As for, Shakur Stevenson, Shakur Stevenson is young. He's a young lion. He can wait, a couple more months or 6 months or even a year to get that fight with Herring, if Herring was to defeat Oscar Valdez, and that would make it even a bigger fight, okay, against Shakur Stevenson. So, although if I was Jamel Herring and I did make that fight with Oscar Valdez and beat him and unify the title, I would go after Gervonta Davis next. Okay, I would just keep unifying titles. If I could get a unification, I would much rather get a unification than worry about a mandatory. You know what I'm saying? I would think that unification trumps mandatory anyway. Now I don't know what the situation is going to be in terms of this fight with Oscar Valdez. If that's where Herring is going to go next, I would think that's where he would be going next. That's where I would be going next. Like I said, much respect to Shakur Stevenson, but he's not really bringing much to the table in terms of, from a business standpoint or even from a legacy standpoint. I would think that a fight against a guy like Valdez, who has accomplished, what he has and beaten Butchelt and, and in other fights and as a champion. I think that a fight with him would be more of a legacy fight than it would be with a guy like Stevenson. Again, so hopefully that's the where Herring is gonna go next. I mean, I'm hearing talk about him, having to drop his belt to fight Oscar Valdez. I hope that's not the case because I wouldn't want to see that happen, and I don't see why it should happen. I mean, if you're doing a unification, as far as I know, unification should trump mandatory. So why should he have to drop his belt to fight Oscar Valdez? I wouldn't. I don't think that would be fair. You know what I mean? And like I said, he could fight Shakur, after that fight, if that's the case, if they really want to push that fight. He can fight after he fight Valdez or if he beats Valdez. But like I said, if I was Herring and I did beat Valdez, my next fight would be, I would try to make the fight with Gervonta Davis next. I would just go ahead and try to unify, try to become undisputed at that point. I mean, it's not like Herring has many years left in boxing. He's like in his in his 30s, moving toward the end of his career. So he needs to make the most of what he can do right now. And like I said, as far as Stevenson's concerned, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he's worked his way up in the rankings, and I think he's like number 3 or something like that now, number 2, number 1, whatever. Excuse me, but I mean, at the end of the day, there are a lot of young lions in the that he can fight in the meantime in the in the featherweight division. I mean, the super featherweight division. You got Chris Colbert out there. I'm saying that he can fight. You got what's that guy that just lost his title on the scales? The guy that beat, I forgot his name, but anyway, that's another fight he can make. I mean, there's fights out there for him to make. I mean, but I understand he wants a title, and I can't blame him for that. I mean, hey, he wants to fight the best, but still, he hasn't really fought that many fights, at super featherweight to where you can say, okay, yeah, that was a fight. I mean, he hasn't really fought anybody, to tell the truth, and I mean, but at the end of the day, we can't really say he hasn't really fought anybody. I mean, he's up in the rankings, and he didn't get there by sitting on the sideline. But at the same time, he hasn't fought anybody of note, anybody like a Chris Colbert or somebody like that. You know what I mean? There's other guys that he can fight at the welterweight before he gets a title shot, I would think. But I mean, it is what it is. I from what I'm hearing, he's supposed to be the mandatory next for Herring, and he wants that fight. So you can't blame him for wanting it. But again, if I'm Herring, I'm moving to the bigger fish. All respect due to Shakur, but he's not the big fish at super featherweight. Okay, he just he's a little guy coming up, and you got much more bigger money fights and more legacy fights to be made at super featherweight that Herring could make. And I don't really see fighting Stevenson next as the best move for him, whether legacy-wise or financially. You know what I mean? So if I was him, I would be looking at the Oscar Valdez fight really closely, and that's the fight I would want to make next. I mean, now the question is, if Shakur and Herring was a fight, who would win? Okay, a lot of people out there saying that Herring, if he fights Valdez, he's ducking Shakur. I don't really see that. I don't really see it that way. I just see it's a better business move and a better legacy move. It's the fight makes more sense all the way around to be fighting Valdez next, and it's not because Valdez is the easier fight as people might think, or some people might think. I don't know who would think that, but I mean, yeah, Shakur is a talented kid. Very, as a matter of fact, I see him as probably one of the most talented, if not the most talented fighter of the young fighters that's coming up between, like, you know, all the other fighters out there, you know, that we see coming up. He's probably the most talented of all of them, okay? But still, I mean, he hasn't really been proven yet, okay? He hasn't fought anybody to where we could say, well, yeah, that was a fight that he could, yeah, now, you know, he's a proven, you know, commodity at featherweight, junior featherweight, I mean, junior lightweight. We haven't seen that fight with him yet. So, you know, to say that, you know, he could beat Herring, I'm not just sure about that. I mean, you would think that he should be able to, based on his talent, if you was to go by talent alone, but fights are not won by talent alone. Fights are won by a lot of different factors, including experience, which is always a big factor in every fight, and Jamel has the experience. Jamel has the experience. So, you know, and from what I'm seeing in that fight with Carl Frampton, he got the skills to pay the bills as well. So there's no guarantee that Shakur will be able to beat Herring from what I'm seeing at this point in both of their careers, and it's quite conceivable that Herring could beat Shakur Stevenson in that fight. Okay, so it is what it is. But again, do I want to see that fight? Sure, I would love to see that fight. But again, I would rather see that Valdez fight first. Okay, that's the fight I want to see next for Jamel Herring. That's the fight I would like to see, and I think a lot of fans would like to see that fight as well. Okay, that's a big fight. You know, it's a big fight legacy-wise. It's a big fight business-wise. It's a unification fight. So it just makes sense that that's the fight to make next. You know what I mean? And I hope that's the fight we're gonna see next. You know, in the meantime, Shakur could fight someone else. You know, maybe somebody that we all probably know about. Maybe, like I said, that Chris Colbert or somebody like that, to establish himself at junior lightweight. But yeah, with that win over Carl Frampton, Jamel Herring kind of established himself as somebody to be reckoned with at junior lightweight, and we want to see him in the bigger fights now. Like with the Gervonta Davises and the other champions up there at junior lightweight. So yeah, that would be a pretty interesting fight with Valdez, and I would definitely want to see that fight next for Jamel Herring. Again, like I said, I think Shakur is young; he can wait. It's not going to kill him to wait one or two more fights to get that title fight. And so, yeah, that's the fight I want to see next. And hopefully, like I said, we will see that fight next, because that's a huge fight at junior lightweight. Very intriguing fight. It's a different, style, contrast. Both guys are coming off of good wins. That's really look like an exciting matchup, and something that, we can all look forward to, is Valdez versus Herring. Yeah, I would love to see that fight. All right, so I'm gonna leave it there. I'm not gonna talk too much about this. Hopefully, like I said, Herring doesn't have to drop his belt to get that fight. But even if he has to drop the belt to get the fight, I would probably do it if I was him, because if he wins, he's getting another belt anyway. But I'm hoping he doesn't have to drop his belt for that fight. I hope he can just make the fight, and then maybe they can come to some kind of agreement where, if he wins the fight, then he can fight Herring next, or Herring gets the winner. Shakur gets the winner of the Valdez Herring fight. If he really wants to fight that bad, which I'm sure he probably do. But again, if I'm Herring and it's possible for it to happen, I would take the Valdez fight, beat Valdez, and then go after the next title. Okay, and then after that, I would fight Stevenson. I would fight Valdez first. Then I would fight, after I fight Valdez, I would fight the next champion. I just mentioned his name. I don't know how I forgot his name so quick, you know. But yeah, that would be the fight for me. And you know, yeah, you know, all this talk about, you know, fighting Shakur. I mean, yeah, that's a good fight, like I said, but that fight can wait. Okay, that fight could definitely wait. I definitely want to see Shakur fight, you know, for a title, but I'm thinking that he can wait for that, and we want to see the Valdez Herring fight next. That should be a very intriguing fight, you know. And like I said, after that fight, if I'm Herring, I'm going after Gervonta Davis next, and then I would think about fighting Shakur Stevenson. So that's just the way I see that, you know. To me, that's the route to take. But hey, you let me know what you think in the comments. That's all I have for right now. This is TBE Boxing. I'm out.